Welcome to this week's episode of Coffee with a Journalist, brought to you by One Pitch. The guests on our show include some of the most notable journalists from the top US-based publications who cover topics including technology, lifestyle and culture, health, science, consumer products, and business news. We discuss their role, the types of stories they cover, what their inbox looks like, and how they connect with sources. If you're an avid listener of the show, we'd love to hear from you. Leave us a review to share your thoughts about past episodes and help spread the word to new listeners. Today, Emily Canal from Insider joins us on the podcast. Emily is a senior reporter at Insider covering entrepreneurship around small business and strategy. Prior to joining Insider, Emily was a reporter for Inc. magazine and Forbes. On the episode, Emily dives right into the stories she's covering and reporting on, subject lines that catch her attention, some of her recent favorite books, and so much more. Let's listen in now.
Welcome, everyone, to Coffee with the Journalists. I'm Beck Bamberger, who's the co-founder of One Pitch, which is the producer of this wonderful podcast, and also BAM, an agency that represents all these wonderful, though crazy, startups that are venture-backed. And today, actually drinking coffee, shocker for this show, despite its name, Emily Canal, who recently joined BI, Business Insider. Welcome, Emily.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
We were just talking about New York and how much we love New York and how it's so great. And you're in Brooklyn right now, right?
I am.
Cannot wait to be back.
It misses you. I guarantee it.
I feel that. I feel it. Yes. Well, let's start first, Emily, with your inbox. How crazy is it in there? How do you keep it under control?
It can get pretty crazy. I like to, my current job, our emails in a Gmail now, so I can really organize emails I get based on the topics I'm working on or stories I'm writing. Generally speaking, there's been some themes with my reporting recently, like PPP and success stories, pandemic-related stuff. So I try to organize it as best I can. And I typically try to tackle my inbox in the morning and making sure I'm sending all the messages I need to that day. And then again at night to make sure I'm set up for the next day. But
smart
stuff rolls in. My inbox can get pretty intense, hundreds of messages in a day. But I try to read through most of them if the subject lines seem really applicable to what I do. And then I leave them unread until I've responded or figured maybe this isn't the best pitch for me.
Ooh, so are you one who responds to every email pitch?
I am not. I want to be. I really strive to be, but
very few people do.
Yeah, it's hard with time management.
It's impossible. I've heard like one person. Speaking of, Lydia, who I was just telling you from Pat's company. I don't know. She's like crazy. I think she has a robot or something. But also she's been doing this for 20 plus years. So there's probably that.
Yeah. So she's got a good handle on what she's doing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Now you said, okay, you get hundreds of emails. How many of those are pitches?
Ooh, I would say most of them.
Really? Like 80%?
I would say about 80% are pitches. And I feel very fortunate for that because, there's a lot of stuff coming in my inbox and entrepreneurs or small business owners that I may not have found. And then sometimes it's really inundating.
Yes.
You walk away, maybe you have lunch and you come back and there's 50 emails in your once previously cleared inbox.
Yes. And you're like, God damn. Yes. Okay. And from those, you mentioned like a subject line. Is that the best way for someone to get your attention? Let's say if they don't know you.
Yeah. If they don't know me, a subject line that will tell me enough of the story or at least be in the same vein of stuff that I cover. I like specificity when it comes to the subject line. So if the subject line says interesting business story for you, I'm probably not going to click on it.
Have you honestly gotten that?
Yeah.
Wow. Interesting story for you.
Interesting business story for you. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna pass.
Yeah.
But there's subject lines that say like, this entrepreneur did this and this. That's going to get me to click because I'm curious. I'm a curious person, probably in the nature of being a journalist, but I want to read more. So the more detail, the better, especially if it has entrepreneur in that subject line or small business owner, I'm definitely going to click on it. And if the pitch is really catered to me, like this person did their homework and they see what I cover, generally speaking, I'm going to respond and say like, this isn't, right for me at the moment, but I'll keep you in mind or this person in mind. And I like to save those emails because I find that this inbox can just kind of be a catalog for story ideas, for sources. Yeah. Down the line.
A lot of people just keep their inbox totally unfiltered, totally unorganized in a sense, because they just search, especially when they're using Gmail. So yeah. Speaking of, here's an audience ask that we have. Comes from Larissa Malkin, who's from Flourishing Focus, which is she's a therapist with a private practice creating training around COVID-19 and mental health. And she was asking us, how many words of background information is enough to submit with a pitch?
Yeah, that's a really good question.
That is a good question.
I think a paragraph would usually suffice. And I think every reporter is different in what they want to see in that paragraph, but I have certain things that I'm looking for. So there are some awesome PR people that I work with that I've known for several years, and they all know that I'm going to ask if the entrepreneur is willing to share revenue. So I think if you can build that relationship with the reporter and get to know the things that they're looking for specifically in a pitch, then you can really cater yours. But I generally think one paragraph, unless it's an amazing story and you really need the space, then I would try to keep it short and digestible.
Like that one paragraph you mentioned.
Exactly. Just get right to the point. Here's the story.
Keep it short.
Yeah. Yep. What that person's willing to talk about.
Is there a memorable pitch you can think of in the last maybe year that you've seen? You're like, oh my gosh, that was the best thing ever.
Yeah. I think this came to my editor and she sent it to me, and it was about one of the co-founders of the company Tomboy X or Tomboy Exchange. And they're a line of gender inclusive, gender neutral clothing. And the story was focused on the co-founder and her upbringing and how she basically escaped a religious cult.
God.
Yep. She was living in New York at the time, a very young kid. Her parents were involved in it and she didn't want to be a part of it, mostly because the cult's religious views are very strict towards women. They were saying, your role as a person is to marry a man and have kids. And this founder, as a young woman, realizing she was a lesbian, didn't fit with that. And so she left this cult. She was outed by a sibling. She went on and studied and just had this amazing life. And this pitch was really long, but I could not stop reading it because every detail. Yeah. And I was like, yes, we're writing that story. Absolutely.
Wow.
It was probably one of my favorite pieces to report last year because it was inspiring when things were just so dark last year.
Yeah. God, I just finished reading, well, this will get into our next part, Unorthodox, which is a memoir. Oh, yes. Did you read that?
No, but I saw the Netflix show, which seems like the worst writer thing I could possibly say.
Yeah. The worst writer thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, was it not good?
No, I meant that like I should have read the book. I'm a writer. I should have read the book, but instead I watched the Netflix show.
You could still, well, now I want to watch the Netflix show, but you could still read the book. Fascinating. So great. So speaking of anything you're reading right now that you love?
Oh yes. I'm a big reader. Okay. So I'm currently between 3 books.
From this show. Okay, great. Let's do it.
Okay, so when I'm in more of a serious mood, I'm reading Red Comet, which is this huge tome about Sylvia Plath's life, focusing more on her just general life rather than her death. And it's very academic. It's written by Heather Clark. And it's intense and it's heavy, but I dip in and out of it. And I don't really know much about Sylvia Plath's life beyond her death.
This is 45 hours on Audible, so that's a hefty one.
It's a hefty one. So in between that, I'm in 2 book clubs. So I am reading A Certain Hunger by Chelsea Summers, which is about a food critic who happens to also eat her ex-lovers.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yep.
What? No, for real?
For real.
Like what parts of them?
Well, so far, I'm more than halfway in. She's killed 3 men and she's eaten different parts. What? We've got a liver, the bum, and what was the other bit? Oh, the tongue. There we go.
Okay, wait. I have to say, look at the opening of this is Eat, Pray, Love meets American Psycho in a seductive and sinister debut literary thriller. Oh, I'm in.
I can't put it down, but I've also been I've been listening to it, which I don't do very often, but I just did a big road trip. Good? She's very dry, but it's kind of great when she's talking about these like beautiful meals, like rack of lamb, and then also how she prepared her ex-lover's liver to eat. It's just,
oh my God.
It's a wild ride. It is very horny. It is very food centric. I think it's going to make you hungry.
All right.
Or repulsed. It's hard to tell.
Yeah. All right. I'll get it. Yeah, let's do it.
And then
Less.
Other one? Less by Andrew Sean Greer. I'm starting that this week.
Less. Okay. What's the premise on that? Do we know?
It's
having less, living with less.
So it's an author, the narrator's name.
Totally different. Okay.
So it's a novel. It follows this writer, author Les, and he's traveling the world on, I think it's a literary tour, and then also grieving this breakup that he just had with a former lover. And I think it was the podcast Pop Culture Happy Hour. One of the hosts was talking about this book and mentioning it's really important and lovely that this is about an older gay man, whereas the AIDS crisis killed so many gay men that this is almost like a peak that a lot of people haven't seen yet.
Oh, I'm happy to tell you, I had it already in my wish list and it won a Pulitzer Prize.
Yes, it did. I'm very excited.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
So I try to keep it balanced, fair bit of cannibalism, a little bit of, biography.
Yeah. Memoirs.
Memoirs. Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Oh, this is why I love this show, because I get all the juicy recommendations from here.
Well, if you're looking for one more, Detransition Baby is one of the best things I've ever read.
Detransition
Baby.
Okay.
Yeah. It deals a lot with, I guess, a recently broken up with, trans couple and parenthood, adulthood, self-identity. It's amazing.
Oh, juicy. Mm-hmm. Oh, Emily, look at you. So many good ones.
There's not a lot to do right now.
Yeah. Hey, you got to escape in books. I hear you on that. Yeah. Is there one story from the year or recently that you wish you wrote that you're like, damn, I wish I got that pitch?
Ooh.
Or any other journalist that you're just like, oh, that was a good piece. I see you over there.
Yeah, there was a story in the Times recently about, I think it was rent prices in real estate that the author found from Reddit. It was people talking about these phenomenons, these trends on Reddit. And I just thought that was so smart. And it actually prompted me to start looking more at Reddit, which is a site I've ignored. And now I'm finding all these interesting story ideas there. So it just taught me basically to keep an eye out, keep checking different platforms. And obviously Reddit grew in prominence, thanks a lot to GameStop. And it's always been a big, big social media tool, but that was fascinating.
Very good. And that's cool. Now I got to look up that piece. Oh my gosh. I tell people I have sometimes a crisis of content. Too much. There's too many good things.
I believe it.
Today's interview will continue after this brief message brought to you by OnePitch. Are you curious to see the unique ways OnePitch helps PR professionals and marketers pitch journalists? Head to onepitch.co to learn about our new OnePitch score and see how easy it is to find the right journalist to pitch your news to. Sign up for your free account today. Now, back to today's episode.
Okay. Little fill in the blank segment here for you, Emily. So here, let's start with this. My favorite publicist always
follows up with me.
I am shocked to hear that. You like when people follow up with you?
Yeah.
Wow.
I can be difficult with email, and it's not intentional. It's just, since it's almost the last thing I do in the day, sometimes I don't get to everything. And for the publicists I like to work with, I trust, I know they know what I work on. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I need to be pinged again, and I tell them, like, just ping me again. Like, I will respond, but sometimes I need that nudge.
Wow, that is freaking cool.
It helps. I need a reminder sometimes.
Yeah, I hear you on that. The most annoying publicist always.
Follows up with me about an hour afterward.
Like, if
I don't know them. It's different if it's a time sensitive story and we know each other, but sometimes I'll get an email at the start of the day, a couple hours later, maybe the end of the day, and it's like, okay, cool down.
Yeah. You'll get a response from me if
you email me asking to have a quick, maybe a 15-minute phone call about what I cover and how we can work together. Mm-hmm. I really appreciate when people do that. I think it's really helpful and builds a symbiotic relationship. But I also like to know that this person took the time to look at what I actually cover. So,
Yes.
more than just business, I want them to see that I cover entrepreneurs, small businesses. I'm doing a lot with PPP right now. Just take a look at my stories and
take a look.
And just do a little homework. And that's going to make me want to talk to you and see how we can find a way to work together if possible.
You will never get a response from me if
you think that Canal is my first name.
Oh no. What?
Happens all the time. Dear Canal. I'm like, oh, all right.
Okay. I don't know what to even say to that. So yeah, okay. It would be a huge help if.
I guess if I also knew maybe best practices for working with publicists, I have some that I'll ping if I'm working on a story I think they might have clients for, but sometimes it's last minute and I feel bad, but that is often the news industry. Yeah, I guess it would also be helpful for me to know what helps in getting in touch. And, I've kind of realized that from talking to some publicists that they'll want to know my deadline, what kind of questions I'd like to ask the source. So you build that over time, but it's very specific.
My perfect Sunday is?
Ooh, okay. I'm thinking it starts off with like a cup of milky coffee. I love milky coffee.
Me too.
Such a common. And in all likelihood, I'm probably starting my morning by reading for a couple of hours.
Oh,
yeah.
Yes.
I really, really love to read.
I love it.
Is this in the pandemic times this Sunday, or is it in the non-pandemic times?
Whatever interpretation you wish of that. Yeah.
I would say if I can try to see some friends, that'd be really nice, which is hard these days, but I live near some close friends, so that makes it easier. And cooking a really good meal with my fiance. Ooh. I love to cook.
Yes.
And I like when we can do it together and have that, and it's an experience together and we get to experiment.
The nicest thing I ever heard about my work was?
Oh, this is a tough one. I think affect any change. That's always nice. And it's hard to keep track of that. But even if I just get an email from someone that says, like, I really enjoyed your piece, or thank you for talking about this, I'm going through something similar. Yeah, I guess that's probably what I would say. It's rare, but it's nice.
The last best thing I ate was?
Oh man, I made for Valentine's Day red wine, soy sauce, braised short ribs.
Oh
yeah.
Delicious.
And it's got mirin in there, delicious. And have it with rice and homemade kimchi. And that was pretty great.
That sounds delicious.
It's awesome.
Quarantine taught me
more patience. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel you on that. One thing I think people should know more about me is
I really like to learn. I really, really like to learn. Yeah, I'm always open to having conversations and kind of exploratory coffee meetings or things like that. I'm always looking for a story, and especially if it's in an area I don't know a lot about, because I love to learn and dive in and research. And it's one of the best parts about being a journalist is that no day looks the same. You just get to learn. So yeah, I guess I would say that.
That's a good one.
Oh, thank you.
Well, speaking of journalists, what do you think the future of journalism is?
I think it's going to be more paywalls, which is good. I think it's going to be more creative. I think we're going to see people interacting with journalists almost like social media, but I think with apps like Clubhouse, you can get texts from journalists now about their stories. I think it's going to be more personal and delivered to the reader, rather than, I think there was a time where you really had to hunt out a lot of news, but now it seems that as the reader, you can really just have whatever you want delivered to you and your interests. So newsletters, tweets, texts from journalists, things like that. I think that's going to be the future, and then just paywalls to support the people working at those publications.
Looking back at yourself, your college self, let's say.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Would you be like, yeah, do this, definitely do this? I know when you were at Paw Print Newspaper as editor-in-chief, the student newspaper at York High School, would you tell yourself, like, yeah, make sure you do this as a career?
Yeah, I would. I would definitely.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, I would definitely want to warn myself that you're in for a hard time, because when I went to college, I think by my sophomore year, there were professors being like, think long and hard about this industry. It's dying. Newspapers are dying. And all I wanted to do was be a newspaper reporter. And obviously that has changed and evolved as the industry changes and evolves. But yeah, I love it. I love it. I love it so much.
I could tell.
It's lucky, but also unnerving to have a very specific goal.
Yeah. Yep. Well, lastly, Emily, let's play our Mad Libs if we can. I'm going to give you the word and then I'm going to fill them all out and I'll read it back to you.
Okay.
Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay. What is an emotion?
Happiness.
Happiness. An adjective.
Smart.
Smart. And another adjective.
You think I'd have an arsenal of adjectives
yes,
at the ready. Yeah. Thirsty.
Thirsty. What about a greeting? Any greeting?
Well, a double wave.
Double wave, yes. And then what about a verb?
Definitely not dainty.
Not dainty. Okay.
I'm excited for this.
Sometimes they're shockingly accurate. Sometimes they're just purely silly. They range. They range a lot. Okay. A noun.
Dear.
Dear. An adjective.
Flighty.
Flighty. Great. Cringe-worthy PR term.
Oh, synergy.
Ew.
Yeah.
You're still getting those? Huh.
Yeah.
Huh.
Everyone's synergizing.
Oh, okay. A part of a pitch.
First line.
First line. Length of time.
Half hour.
Half hour. Name of a real person, ideally alive.
First and last?
Yeah. Or you could say like my mom, I don't know.
I'll do my fiance.
Okay.
All right.
That's a good one. And then lastly, an emotion.
Peaceful.
Peaceful. I love it. Okay. Here we go, Emily.
All right.
When I think about the future of journalism, I feel happiness. The pitches I receive have gone from smart to thirsty. If I receive a pitch that starts with double wave, Emily, I am not dainty about it. When I write stories on deers, I get flighty. My favorite pitches include synergy and have a very specific first line. I normally take around half an hour to respond to my emails, but if it's my fiance, I will respond immediately. If you do not get a response back from me, you should know that I am very peaceful for you. I love that one.
I love it too. I love the line about deers and being flighty.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's great. That's perfect. It's perfect. Oh, thank you, Emily, for being on today. This was so fun.
Thank you so much for having me. If you ever want to talk books, let me know.
Oh, sure will.
Yes.
Sure will. Let me get through those 3 though first that you mentioned.
Oh yeah, definitely. Let me know what you think.
Yeah, I will. Thanks again, Emily.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Coffee with the Journalist featuring Emily Canal from Insider. If you enjoy listening to our show, make sure to subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and anywhere else you listen to podcasts. And if you have a moment, please leave us a review to share your thoughts about the show and today's guest. To learn more about the latest tools on OnePitch and to subscribe to our weekly podcast newsletter, head to our website at onepitch.co. We'll see you all next week with a brand new guest and even more insights about the journalists you want to learn more about. Until then, start great stories.